is just reliability, that I'm reliable, been in the industry for a while, I value clients, so I'm never going to show up late to a shoot or whatever. In fact, I'll be there 2-3 hours before, and you're not paying me for that time, me waiting, but you're paying for the fact that I am prepared and I'm ready and I know my stuff. So I think that's one thing that people need to always gauge, that it's you don't get paid for just showing up. You get paid for what you know and you experience.
From Cnrjutaanddebeer, imini Simz umvelisi ngomelisi wesizwe, formerly known as Madonsela, bringing you a show about creative entrepreneurs live from the landmark that not only birth SA street culture but also formalize the street hustle. Cnrjutaanddebeer special edition. Thank God for the savings. Formerly known as Madonsela, sitting with the one, the only Babshamase Simuphiwe Mkhwanazi. How are you?
How's it, brother?
I'm good, man. You're a photographer, part-time accountant, studio manager. You're a learning videographer in training. How are you feeling?
No, I'm feeling good, man. I'm happy to be here. Happy to be able to still do what I do. It's a lot of things, but I try and get it all done. So, yeah.
In building up to having a bigger studio, started off as best friends, as a collective effort. What led to you leaving the collective to saying, okay, cool, I'm going to try it on my own now, but I'm trying it bigger?
Yeah, so I think the misunderstanding there was that it was a collective effort. It was just the name. So I was trying to get creatives to... So I started the space alone, but I wanted to get creatives to come through and have a space where we all could work, just leave home and come and work. I just realized with me I'd work from home for a very long time.
Sure.
And then from there, it was, sometimes there will be days where I just don't feel like it, But if you're paying rent somewhere, you're going to go, because you need to eat your rent.
Sure.
So that was the idea with Best Friends. And obviously, most of the people that I approached to just come hang by and work were mostly my friends. So and then it was like, let's start Best Friends, And that was the idea from there. It wasn't like a whole collective that was signed up by everybody, no. And that worked out, and started getting people also wanting to rent the space. So before you know it, you must move out of that space and get another space where you can work, And from there, and then the space just started becoming smaller, in terms of my client base as well. I'd also like to shoot my clients. It was mostly because I started in 2020. So at the time, I was just shooting a lot of families, individual shoots. There wasn't really much commercial work happening then. So from then when commercial work started coming in, I was like, I have a studio. Why do I keep renting bigger studios? So it was already in the pipeline, planning towards getting my bigger space. So yeah.
Yeah. When you get the bigger space, what's the investment like? Because you have the space that's kind of figured out how to make its own money. Now you're like, I'm getting this empty shell of a warehouse, and I'm going to furnish it from the ground up.
It's crazy. I think as much as you can plan, you can never plan enough. I did have some savings that I had started saving. So I already knew 2021 that hopefully by 2022 I'll get my own bigger space. I did save up, started chatting to contractors and stuff. And for me also having worked at Glow at the time, I was also aware of how hard it was to build a studio. So I kind of had an idea what I'm putting myself into. But you get there and then things just don't work according to plan. And and then the savings were gone in a few months. I was just getting started, so yeah.
And then what's the business like now? Because the studio now has to make a return. Because you're hiring space because you had clients. But now you have to find the studio its own clients. What's that mission like? Because we all I want an office, but now you have to have clients to service that office. Otherwise, you can't pay the rent.
Yeah, I think the first year or so, it wasn't making anything. It wasn't turning over any profits. It was just at good months it will pay itself. Now coming into 2025, which is probably like what now it's been finished building it in 2022. So now that's what 2 years later. Now it's starting to make a little bit of profit. So that's some of the things that people are not aware of. They think you have a big studio, you're making coin from scratch. It's a whole lot of things because in the film photography industry, we are very loyal to spaces that we've been using. It takes time to adapt to a new space. It's like you going to a new restaurant. It takes time. You to try out a new space comes with a lot of risk, comes with a lot of, trying out new things. So those are all the things that you need to learn with time. And I think that's also what people were learning as well, starting to trust the space, starting to believe that it can do what they do, make them look good to their clients and so on. So now we are now in a trajectory. We are moving a bit higher now, so which is a good space to be, I think.
Typically, when someone becomes a photographer, well, for my generation, we start off simply by saying, okay, cool, I'm going to start shooting at events. That's how I'm going to make money. You've chosen the other route to do studio and commercial shoots. What was the reasoning behind that? When you could see there's a new festival every week, you could make a killing every weekend.
Yeah, I think you mentioned in the beginning that my background is accounting. So, most accountants are not really people who are out there, want to be seen, just want to be at our offices, do our work, make everybody happy, earn a lot of money, that's it. So I guess also coming from that type of personality, events and stuff weren't really something that I wanted to be at or I enjoyed being at. But obviously, with time, I started looking at, at the time, I think it was Facebook era. This is 2013, 2014. Now I'm seeing people who are doing work that I like because I wanted to see my work on billboards. That's what I liked. That's what I wanted. I wanted to see my work in magazines and so on. So that for me was, how do I get there? Before I start. I also felt like events would distract me because then I'll be busy with events. I had already met guys who are doing events every weekend or so on. So I felt like it's gonna be. I'm very a focused person, so I'd rather do something, do it well, and then move on to the next thing. So I think that's why I approached, hitting up people who are already doing that work, assisting them, and then building a portfolio in that direction, and then people started calling me up. It's like, hey, we saw your work, come shoot this commercial thing for us. And that's how it got. Not that I don't shoot events, I do, but mostly it's not work that I seek out on a day-to-day, yeah.
Your dream is to shoot the billboards. Yeah. That means you're doing commercial. Yeah. But now there's a new shift for brands where they're moving to a digital, more video-based, more influencer-based. How are brands still finding the value of a studio shoot? Because now we have to pay Shamase Studios for rental, we have to have a producer, we have to have catering, etc., etc. Whereas if we call this influencer, they could have just shot that thing and uploaded in 3 hours' time.
I think it's also all about target market and value. So if you value your brand and you really want it to capture an audience that's going to pay for that, even some of the influencer shoots, we still shoot as a commercial. We still shoot them in a commercial strategy. It's just that now there's an influencer instead of having a model or having a celebrity. So I don't think there's loss of value in there. There's still a lot. It's just the subjects are changing because we want to see familiar faces, which is exactly, maybe at the time we didn't call them that, but you seeing Dr. Kumalo on a billboard would still influencer work. Because he has to, we know him, he plays soccer, that kind of thing. So it's still there. I think maybe the other side of it is then work that influencers maybe do themselves, or where they shoot and do value. And there's still space, there's a lot of space for that with the age of TikTok, Reels, and all that stuff. And I mean, if you see that, it's not going to live very long, in terms of, the campaign is for a week, it's a Valentine's thing, or whatever, But it doesn't then bring the brand like direct sales. It's more like, hey, I'm using this brand, by the way, because whereas brands can be direct in their commercial shoots, straight up, I'm advertising you this Coke, that kind of thing. So I think there's a lot of value in what I do. Actually, I think it's shifted more to commercial, because with new people coming in, also with influencer work, the level then is seen to shift a lot, because influencers, I'm not saying that they're not good influencers out there, but the work that a whole team or commercial team would set up and do is always going to be a bit better than what a one-man band is doing or a small team is doing. So there's still that value in there, yeah.
Speaking of value, how have you found justifying value for budget been for you? Because most of us, we're like, you know what, I'll do this for 60 per hour, but I can't justify why it has to be 60K per hour.
You know what, I think with the pricing, it's a very tricky one. It's tricky. I think art on its own is very hard to price, but I always look at it, maybe also being from accounting background, I always look at how much is it costing me to do this job in terms of time, hours, and so on. And how long is this going to take me to do this month? So, for example, if I get a job and it's going to make me sit in the editing desk for 2 weeks, is it worth me charging 6K for that job? Or should I be charging 60 for that job? Because now it's getting me sitting there, and what are my costs, what are my overheads, and so on. So I think that's how I kind of like establish my value. And then also that's why people hit you up, what's your rate? My rate is dependent on what the deliverables are,
It's always tricky because they always want a rate card to suss out where your costings are. But how do you deal with that? Like if you have to do that back and forth, because you still want the work.
I think it's always a thing of also assessing a client. There's clients who are fishing, and looking at the value in. I always have when I'm pricing or looking at should I take on a client and stuff like that, I always have I call it a 3 metric thing, where the first one would be the price they're willing to pay. The second will be, do I want to be associated with that brand? Is it gonna...
But how does association affect you? Because you're a photographer. It's not like you in front of the cam at the moment.
No, so association by I produce the work, because as much as agencies are, maybe someone might not see my name on the work, but it gets shared around a lot. I've been to so many treatment meetings or pre-productions where my work is on the mood board, so work gets shared a lot, and it's already, if your work is on the mood board, you are 90% going to get that job because that's the work they want. They might be just getting other people to come and pitch just for, the sake of it, to meet their red tape, But I think, and then the third one will then be if that brand can add to my portfolio. So is this a portfolio I like? So, okay, let's say maybe an event job comes, right? For me to take it, it's definitely not going to add to my portfolio. It's not something that I'm posting on social media every day or whatever. Is it paying well? Okay. And then is the brand, say maybe the brand is Louis Vuitton. So brand association is great there because and then I can add that to my list of clients and say that I've worked with Louis Vuitton. So it always must tick one of these boxes. So if one of them is good, I can't do a job that doesn't pay well, doesn't add to my portfolio. Also I don't even want to be associated with that brand anyway. I can't do this job for one must win. It must either be paying very high because we need the work, you know what I mean? So that's what I always look at to kind of determine my pricing. Yeah.
How are you functioning now as a business when you have to do the balance? Because now you're doing a lot of balancing. You still have to shoot, you still have to run the studios, sorry.
Yeah. No, the studio I don't run as much anymore. I just oversee. I do have people now who do that. So that's been a nice weight. You know, as soon as the studio started making money, and then it could pay somebody as well. So that kind of works. But and then the other parts as well, like I've delegated quite a lot of things. So also with editing, I don't do that much editing anymore. I kind of oversee it. And I just focus on shooting and client management. You know, like even on set now, I'm very fortunate. I don't even know what gear we need for that shoot. You know what I mean? Like I'll just send a mood board to my team and be like, hey, this is what we need. And then they'll suggest what we need. And then I think also like with that, having a team kind of helps you just focus on making the client happy. Like I will deal with whatever they need and my team deals with whatever I need, you know, and then we're able to do that. And that has been a very good place to be. I wish that for every creator, because you don't want to be worrying about, is there a memory card in the camera? And then also worry about, is the client happy? It's just two things that you shouldn't be sitting at, you know, so yeah.
How's the full circle moment going from working at Glow to now having people go order stuff for you at Glow?
It's crazy. Like I think also like at Glow was more. I wasn't supposed to work at Glow. It was just like I really liked being there. I used to learn a lot. When I first moved to Joburg from Durban in 2017. I would spend a lot of time there just learning their equipment and all that stuff. So, and then I got familiar with the guys. And then it got to a point where, like, they'll just need a bit of help, need someone packing gear, and I'll be around and I'll just help the clients because I just felt like I was at home. These people have shared so much knowledge that has really elevated me. So that's how it was. So even with now, we very much work together. We send clients to one another. If my studio's book, I recommend Glow. If their studio's book, they recommend, you know. So it's been a very good, you know, relationship. You know, it's cool people.
How's the shift been from being out of town to being the guy who runs the town?
Am I running the town?
Now all the photographers are coming to you like, you know what, we're gonna book there by Simz. That's the spot to go to. Whether I have big budget or small budget, Simz has something for me.
It's truly amazing. It's truly amazing to have a community of people that believe in what you do and also believe in your service, because we can always support each other. But also with my studio, if you do see it, it's one that I'm very proud of. Just even if when I'm looking outside and I'm like, if I was a client, will I book the studio? And I'm always like 100% yeah, you know. So it's that kind of, and I see also when people see it, nobody's forcing you to say it's a beautiful studio, my guy. You could have just came and just like, hey, Simz, you're doing it, you know. But when you get comments like that, like, oh, it's so beautiful, it's so like convenient, the things that are here are so like, they help us create better. And that actually makes me feel like, oh, okay, cool, I'm making a difference in this town. And because, I came here in seeking to, you know, grow my photography, but it wasn't really, I didn't envision that one day I'll have creatives walking into my studio and actually booking it and shooting. You know, like this week that we just came through, we've just had like, it's been like, so nice to see when people call and they're like, hey, Simz, I have a shoot, I'm still quoting, hold it for me, please, 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 please. You know, and I have another person, I'm like, yo, what are we gonna do? You know, so it's a good problem to have that. Yeah.
Earlier on, you spoke about the importance of understanding your equipment and how you spend time. How would someone crash course photography in 2025? Because when I started learning how to take photos, we had the Canon 1100, the 1100D, and everyone knew that you just take a photo. That's your job, go learn Lightroom. And then now it's like you're expected to be a photographer and a videographer, and as a standardized format that everyone wants it, because now it has to be portrait, it has to work for Instagram, and it has to have the same filters, because now we're going to reference that picture Simz took with 5 lights, and we expect that of an upcoming photographer.
Sure, I think the barrier of entry has definitely decreased. I know as much as we have a lot of things that, like, you must learn this and this and this, but I think also the technology has improved a lot in terms of the knowledge of cameras now it's not as, and also the information is there. I think when I started in 2013, YouTube was a thing, but it wasn't as now. Now you can literally get every answer. I feel like you can crash course and probably know both by the end of the month if you're really persistent. But one thing that is still very there is YouTube. I learned a lot on YouTube, and it wasn't much YouTube then. I think sound like a dinosaur, but it was just like 2013. And leveraging the people that you know. You'll learn a lot from people. Help them out. I see a lot of people who want to start out, but they can't help another person, but they expect help from them. So you want to be an assistant, but you don't want to assist. You just want to get the knowledge, And how then do you expect this person to help you? I've seen a lot of assistants come and assist me, and they were just assisting to be associated with me, to be like on their CV, I assisted Simz, so I'm a good assistant, And I think it's just that, there's not a lot of people who are just willing to give themselves and actually, help first to get helped and learn. And also with the learning, I think sometimes people are just in a rush. They're so quick. They want to be the next Austin Malema, Cedric. They want to be, those things take time to get there. So also just having the patience and actually putting the time to learn. Because I know people are like, you'll watch 1 or 2 YouTube videos, yeah, I got it. That would be
one guy's learning Photoshop. He's like, nah, I mastered this thing.
And it actually takes time. I actually had this guy hit me up and was like, Simz, I bought the same camera as you. Why is my pictures not like yours? Now, the only difference is experience. That's the difference. You just have to put in the hours. But fortunately, you can catch up, because I think when I started off, I was learning a lot. And now, I'm just updating the knowledge, learning new cameras as they come out, but not as much as...
There's not much of a learning curve. It's just maintenance now. Yeah. To get to this point, how do you manage expectations? Because I'm now in studio with you, and I'm seeing we quoting this client. How much? No. I'm supposed to be paid more. I'm supposed to learn more. I'm supposed to be able to shoot my own stuff. And they're not understanding that you are the sensei at that moment. How have you managed those expectations from people learning from you?
I mean, same as an accounting firm. If you expect to be paid as much as the partner and you're just the intern and the accountant, you need to get your brain rewired, because it really takes to get to a certain step. Most of my fee is because you don't have to worry as a client. I'll get the job done. You send me any brief, even if there's a curveball on set, that I will get it going because I have so much experience and knowledge into understanding what you want. You don't have to have lengthy meetings with me explaining that you want this. Even if you don't know how to speak photography language, but you can send me an image and exactly I'll get it. So I think that's most of my fee is just reliability, that I'm reliable, been in the industry for a while, I value clients, so I'm never going to show up late to a shoot or whatever. In fact, I'll be there 2-3 hours before. And, you're not paying me for that time, me waiting, but you're paying for the fact that I am prepared and I'm ready and I know my stuff, So I think that's one thing that people need to always gauge, that it's you don't get paid for just showing up. You get paid for what you know and your experience, So I've had those situations where there's an assistant that sees my invoice and they see that they're only getting 5 or 10% of that, of my rate, not the total rate. And they forget that, also there's line items for everything. There's equipment, there's a studio, there's whatever. All of this doesn't just come to me. I also have a team. I also have staff at the office that I need to pay, So I think it's just a mentality of, if you are someone that wants to be valuable, you first see value in your position first and see, okay, cool, I'm still an assistant, so can I be sent to do a job? Probably not. Or probably the client will be nervous the whole time, that kind of thing.
Crazy. And then with the growth and everything around you, what's the actual business of photography that we're not aware of? Because we just see you pull up great gear, amazing team, you take the photo. But what was the business behind all of that? Because a lot of people do improve their skills, but they don't know how to manage the business, know the expectations from client.
I think always running like a business. So I think most of us start photography and we're just creatives, right? And we just know how to do the work. We don't know how to, as you said, manage a client. Certain things are costs. If you're having a meeting with the client, that's a cost. It's in accounting you call it an opportunity cost. So it's a cost of you foregoing one thing for another. So if that is not making you money or bringing you closer to the client, it's a loss to your business. So it's all those costs that I might not charge. I mean, there were times where I'll charge for a meeting, but once I know, but sometimes it wouldn't be worth charging for the meeting because I see the more value in that, But certain things like, maintaining your gear, you have to have insurance. You have to have, if you're buying gear, so making those costs, is it worth it to buy gear or is it better to rent it out? What are the costs that are involved in that? You having your own gear, you must maintain it, look after it and all that stuff. But if you are renting it out, you don't have to maintain it, but you run the risk that you might get a booking tomorrow and that gear is not available on the shelf in the rental house. So what is the hard that you want to do? And then obviously, if you have a space, what do you, and also how to chase your invoices. We creators, we emotional people. So you chase for invoices, someone doesn't pay, like you quick on Twitter, what does that do on your business? So it's all those things that, getting into the mindset of I do the work now, this is the creative work, and also running the business because you need to stay alive, like if clients don't pay on time and they keep making you understand, you need to have things in place to let them know, like, listen, if you don't pay, it's either don't hand over the work, you miss your deadlines, or I charge a certain percentage for late payments or whatever, So I think it's always good to consult a business person first before you start it. This might be something that will find you there, but when you see that, okay, this is what I live by, it needs to operate like a business.
What's your word to the youth?
Just do it. Like, I think it's hard sometimes to do it because you feel like the industry is saturated. Do it if you have a full-time job. Still do that job, because it does get this work is seasonal. There are months where I'm busy every day, and then there's months where I'm surviving on the business of the other time. So having good budgeting and all that stuff, do it, and just try to learn as much as you can. I think that's like a hidden power that nobody can. If you know more and you can solve, like this business, I always looked at it as a hospitality business. I'm solving people's problems, so the quicker I can solve your problem, I'll still charge you my full day rate. But if I can solve your problem quickly, we get in there and out, and your shoot is done. And then so just look at it from that point, and how do I solve these problems? How do I make it easier for clients? And I think that's just also like associating yourself with the right people really helps you. But I've had a lot of people who, associate with themselves with certain people, and then they call to do certain work and they can't do it. So just back it up as well, but otherwise, just do it. That's my thing.
Simuphiwe Mkhwanazi. Siyabonga.
Siyabonga kakhulu.